conditional, starring P, then Q, and co-starring with Netica. Okay, and if you don't know what Netica is, it's really just a kind of toy to represent knowledge, but it's an interactive toy that you can play with. So you can build little structures and then you play with it and it responds. So the end result will be a little network like this. We've got P, Q, and this represents if P, then Q. I'll explain what these numbers mean in a minute. Now, the material conditional, if P, then Q. There's a little bit of slippage between the material conditional and the way we use it in ordinary language, but no matter. So the point of this exercise is to learn how to do something interactively with Netica. There are other programs like it, and I'll make a video at some point about other similar programs. So specifically, we're going to teach Netica the logic of the conditional by doing a little bit of what I like to call brain surgery. Now here's the plan. I will first quickly preview what I am about to do, and then I will actually do it on Netica to show you how it works. Okay, so I use Netica, but there's lots of other simple to use software, which I'll leave down in the description. Okay, now keep in mind that this software is not just another way to draw. It's an inference engine underneath. That is absolutely fundamental. So what I'll do is this. I'll create two Boolean nodes. Right? Boolean are either true or false. Right? These are familiar Boolean variables, P and Q. And then we will link them like so. And the idea is that this will represent the actual linkage between P and Q. And this will be a way of saying if P, then Q. So I haven't entered any values yet. So that's why from Netica's point of view, well, this is either true or false. This is either true or false. And this, for all it knows, is also either true or false. Now, the truth table, which is also really the brains, and that's what's underneath what you see above. Above, you see the graphical representation. Underneath is the brain. But for the moment, the brain is blank. It knows nothing about what it means to say if P then Q. Notice that it's already worked out something for me. It says, okay, well, you've got two variables, P and Q. Well, this is the way to represent all the possible combinations of true and false. Now just tell me, what do you mean by if P then Q? Okay, so that's what we'll do. So you've seen the truth table before, and we'll say more about how to motivate, how to fill this in. Right? So this is the familiar truth table for the conditional. Notice that the only time that it's false is when the antecedent P is true and the consequent Q is false. The conditional is really not very fussy. Right? It's true in 3 of the 4 possible cases. That's why I put a little red dot there to simply take note of the fact that it's false only under the circumstances when the antecedent, which is P, is true and the consequent P is false. So let's get on with it. So the fundamental thing is this, that Netica is an interactive way of doing logic and truth tables. You ask it a question and it will reply. Okay, granted, it's got a limited vocabulary. It's only going to reply true or false, but it's guaranteed to be consistent with what you teach it. Specifically, we'll ask it about 2 rules of logic. The 2 correct rules of inference are Modus Ponens and Modus Tollens. And 2 fallacious inferences are affirming the consequent and denying the antecedent. We'll say more about what all that means. So let's go play with Netica. Okay, so here we are with Netica. So we've got our three Boolean nodes, P, Q, and if P then Q. And for the time being, well, there's no relation between them, so Netica doesn't know anything, right? If I take a look at its brain, I go here, and it just says, well, either true or false. I'm not even going to bother saying anything, so it's just blank. Okay, so we'll close that. And the key now is to relate P to if P then Q, and to relate Q to if P then Q. Now, if we look into its brain, then we see, well, now, isn't that interesting? It's blank, but at least we've gotten somewhere. It's given us all the possible combinations of P and Q for true, true, false, false, and true, false, true, false. Now it simply awaits further instructions. Well, the very first thing we want to say is, well, okay, so to begin with, it's a deterministic function. All right, and this is going to be either true or false. Okay, so we need to motivate how to fill this in. And we can motivate this by bringing forward a little description of the net. Okay, and what we might do also is bring back the brain. Okay, now, so there's a bit of slippage between the way that we use if then and how we define the truth table for the material conditional. So one way that we can get around all that, or at least get some intuitive feel, is thinking in terms of, say, some plausible sentence. And we'll say this. Suppose that we've got the sentence, if I go to the store, then I will buy cookies. So we can think of P as being the sufficient condition for this action. I will buy cookies. So now if I, in fact, do go to the store, so that P is true, and I do, in fact, buy cookies, then you would say, well, then if P then Q is true. Well, very well, then we're just going to say that's true. If instead I go to the store, but I fail to bring back cookies, well, they'll be held to pay. But also, if P then Q will then be false. And so we would say, well, that's false. Now, suppose that I don't go to the store, but somehow I still buy cookies. Well, they will rejoice. Yes, I only said that going to the store was a sufficient condition for buying cookies. I didn't say it was necessary. I can buy cookies in other ways, like on the internet, which seems crazy to me, by the way, but you can actually buy cookies on the internet? Really? Okay, so I certainly didn't lie, right? So we can say, well, if P then Q is true. And so we'll say, okay, true. Now comes this one, right? Suppose that I don't go to the store, so P is false. And also, well, I don't buy cookies, so Q is false. Okay, so yeah, this is gonna be hell to pay here, but I haven't lied, right? So maybe I'm a dick, but I did not lie. I did not lie. So I can say, true. Look, it's still true. What I said was true. Yes, I didn't go to the store. Yes, I did not buy cookies. Call me a dick if you like, but it's true. So there. And now we say apply. Ooh, look, pretty color. It turned blue. And it turns blue because it's become a deterministic node. And Netica says, thank you. And that makes me blue. Very good. Okay. Now, let's play. Okay, let's play. First, we got to do this. We got to compile this thing. Okay, compile. Now, let's consider, well, first, the very first thing we could do is the sanity test. One way to do the sanity test is let's put true here and true here. Good. This comes out true. If this is true, but we put false here, this had better come out false. And yes, it is. Okay, very good. Okay, let's withdraw all that. And now let's think back to Logic 101 and let's think about, how about Modus Ponens? So let's reveal our window here. And you've seen this rule before, Modus Ponens, right? You're given the first premise, if P then Q, the second premise P, and then you have MP Modus Ponens by 1 and 2, or with 1 and 2, and you say, therefore, Q. Well, let's play here and say, okay, well, we'll have the first premise, if P then Q, and the second premise is P. Okay, I'll put P over here, and then we'll move. Notice that I'm moving stuff around, but I'm preserving the links. That's very cool. The links get preserved, and if the links get preserved, that means that the inference gets preserved. Okay, well, let's see how Modus Ponens works. Let's see if Netica has figured it out. Okay, we say, if P then Q is true, okay, we'll enter true, true, and then we'll say, okay, and P is true, true. What say you, Netica, about Q? And it says, oh, well, Q is true too. Very good, very good. Okay, how about, okay, we'll just put that aside. We'll put that over here. And then we'll say, well, what about, hey, what about Modus Tollens? Okay, so we'll bring this back over here, and then we'll go over here. Okay, what about Modus Tollens? Okay, now Modus Tollens, so we'll just withdraw all our findings, and we'll say, okay, well, Modus Tollens involves, denying the antecedent, or not the consequent rather, right? Q, that's the consequent. So put that over here, we'll put that over here, and we'll put that over here. And then we say, okay, so we're saying P then Q is true, Q is false, so we'll say not Q, false. What say you about P? And it says, well, P is false, and that's exactly it. Therefore, not P, not P. Very good. You have just done Modus Tollens. Very good. Full marks for Netica. Now, let's withdraw all this. Let's see, maybe, can we fool Netica? Let's do, oh yeah, here we go. Let's do this famous fallacy, okay? How about this? Affirming the consequent. Let's see if we can fool Netica. I'm going to say, hey, Netica, what do you think about this? Here we go. So this is over here. Oh, we didn't need to move anything around. Okay, suppose I do this, Netica. Okay, suppose I say, if P then Q is true, and then I affirm Q. What say you about P? And Netica says, well, I am not fooled. P can be either true or false. So I don't assert that P follows because it doesn't follow. So full marks, Netica. You were not fooled. Very good. Okay, well, let's try one more time to fool Netica. And this time, let's do it with, what is that? Oh yeah, with denying the antecedent. Again, we'll withdraw the evidence here that we've got. Let's just do this. Oh, here we go, deny all that, or withdraw. And we need to move stuff around. So we keep this here, but this time we got to move that over here, and then we move that over there, right? And then we say, okay, premise is true. That's the conditional. And then we say, hey, suppose I say not P, right? If P then Q and not P, would you say not Q? Netica says, no, sir, I'm not fooled. I don't go in for this fallacy of denying the antecedent, you know. Very good. Full marks again. It was not fooled. It's exactly as it should be. Denying the antecedent does not guarantee, therefore, the falsity of the consequent. To do so would be to commit the fallacy of denying the antecedent. Very well then. Okay, so that's what I mean by playing around with Netica. You give it simple questions and it will give you simple answers. So there we have it. One more thing we could do, let's just reorganize this a little bit. Suppose I go here and I go here. You'll see, of course, that if I say, hey, as a matter of fact, the conditional is false, tell me about P and Q. And it'll say, well, in that case, P is false and Q's, or rather P is true and Q's false. Oh, we might want to just do it that way. Here we go. That looks better. There's P, there's Q. And if we know that if P then Q is false, well, then P is true and Q is false. Very good. We are done. And we are back to summarize where we have been. So this is what we did. All right, so after we filled in our little network, we moved things around. And that's the nifty thing about Netica. Once you've got your little network, you can just move stuff around so long as you preserve the links, right? Then the inference can go just as you want. So we illustrated modus ponens in the following way. The standard structure is, well, first if P then Q, so that's the first premise, and it's over here. And then the second premise was P. And now we want to know, well, if that's true, and we put true, we tell Netica, okay, well, this is true. And then we tell Netica, okay, well, and this is true. What say you, Netica, about Q? Well, it says Q is true. Thank you very much. Very well then. And then what about modus tollens? That's when we again say the conditional is true, but this time we deny the consequent. And we say, oh, well, Q actually is false. What say you, Netica, about the inference that you can make? And it says, well, I can infer from that P must therefore be false. And so we put P over here, and it tells us, you know what? P is false. And then we say, okay, well, let's try to fool Netica if we can. And we're going to say this. We're going to say, look, Netica, if P then Q is true, and suppose that I say to you, and Q is true, what say you, Netica, about P? Netica is not easily fooled, and it says, well, you know what? P could be true, or it could be false. So there is no inference rules that license me to say, therefore P, it could be true, or it could be false. And finally, what about denying the antecedent? Netica, listen up. This time I tell you that if P then Q is true, and I tell you that P is false, what say you, Netica, about Q? Are you tempted to say not Q? Not so, says Netica. Netica says, therefore, Q might be true or it might be false. I am not fooled. Sorry. So, in conclusion, if you've been paying attention, and I hope you have been, you will be able to solve this simple puzzle, which, by the way, 90% of the people tested on it tend to get wrong in one way or the other. This is the famed Wason selection task. Sometimes I call it Wason, but apparently it's Wason. Mr. Wason, a psychologist, back in 1966, gave this test. Okay, he puts 4 cards on the table. is a letter on one side and a number on the other. And he says, which card must you turn over to test the truth of this proposition? If a card shows a vowel on one side, then it has an even number on the other side. Okay, tell me, which cards must you turn over between this one, A, K, 4, 7? Which one must you turn over to tell me if this rule or this conditional has been violated? Can you do it? Remember, 90% of the people tested repeatedly fail it again and again and again. And this test has been given to, my God, thousands of people, maybe millions. Well, I don't know about millions. So, better yet, not only can you solve it, but can you model it on Netica? Right? There's a way, using the little network that we just created, of tying each of these little cards to our little rules. Can you do it? And I'll do that in the next video. So, a final thought. There are, in fact, lots of tools like Netica out there to explore logic. And I mean explore, where you can actually do stuff. It's not enough just to write stuff on the board. Right? Not enough just to write stuff on paper. You learn best if you learn to interact with the thing. So, and that's what tools like Netica does. Okay, well, thank you for your attention. And until then, see you next time.